Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to talk to you just like you were my friend. You contacted me saying my student is really struggling to understand borrowing within subtraction, and I'm just not sure what to do. This would be my response. So when we have a student struggling with subtraction, my favorite tool is probably base 10 blocks. I'm going to have a couple links down in the description. One will be for an Amazon affiliate link if you want to buy a set just like this. Another link will be just to a printable version if you just want to print it out and cut them out and use them that way. I will also have a link to this chart if you feel like this will be helpful. It's not 100% necessary, but it can be very helpful. All right. So the first thing I would do would be to get out some of these blocks that can be noisy. Sorry, get out some of these blocks and just see if my student is familiar with them. Like, hey, does your teacher have some of these? Have you used them before? Do you know what they are? There's a pretty high chance that they have used them. They're in, I would say, probably most classrooms. If that's not the case, just give them some time to kind of play with them and talk about them. Like, okay, how many blocks are in a stick? How many sticks are in a square? Different things like that so that they're familiar with them. Then you want to make sure they can start like making numbers with them. So say, hey, can you show me 122? And make sure that they understand the blocks. Play with them for as long as they need. All right, then we're going to start getting into the subtraction part. Now I'm going to give you a lot of different, I don't want to call them steps, but basically like stages to go through as you progress. And you will know how long to spend on each stage, just how your student's reacting. There's going to be some who can go through this really fast. They'll pick up on it pretty quickly. There's going to be some who need more time at different levels, and that's totally fine. This isn't something you want to rush through. Okay. We also don't want this to feel like, all right, student, since you're not getting this, we're doing this big intervention. No, this is meant to more be like discovering it while playing with stuff, right? We want it to feel kind of playful, not like, all right, we're going to make you understand this, right? We want it to be kind of fun. So I would first start introducing subtraction with the base 10 blocks without any borrowing. Okay, so I might do a problem like 174 minus 21. All right, so I say, all right, student, here is 174. I want you to take away 21. Now, it can be very helpful to write it on a Post-it note or something so they don't have to say, wait, how many did you want me to take away? And also so they start to connect like, oh, okay, I'm not just playing with blocks. This is math. So it's good to have them be able to see it visually too. So here's my 174. If I ask my student to take away 21, we do want to try to get them into the habit of taking the ones first and then the tens. But if they don't, I mean, it's not a huge deal. Like, don't make it a thing. But if you can try to remind them to do the ones first, that's great. So I'm taking away 1 and 2 tens, which is 21. What am I left with? I'm left with 153. If you can help them write the answer, fantastic. Just so they're starting to connect this. All right. I would do a bunch of examples like that where you're not borrowing at all, until they are feeling very comfortable with that. Maybe they're even getting a little bored with it. Like, okay, I get it. Then we're going to move to the next stage with borrowing, but we don't want to make it like this huge, all right, now we're moving on, right? We just want to maybe make it like, okay, this one's going to be a little different. It might be a little tricky. See if you can figure out what to do. So I might give them something like 153 minus 36. So I get my 153 and I want them to take away 36. Well, hopefully they're in the habit of taking from the ones first. And it's like, well, I don't have 6 to take away. I only have 3. And that's when I don't want you to just jump in and give them the answer. I want you to have them think about it for a minute. Like, oh, you only have 3 ones. What are you going to do? Is there a way to get more ones? And they might joke about like getting them from the bin, right? And you're like, sorry, it doesn't work. We can't change the problem. but is there somewhere within here that we can get more ones? And hopefully they'll be able to figure out, oh, I can take one of these and break it apart, right? It doesn't actually break it apart, but you can trade it in, right? Trade it in for 10 ones. Okay, I just traded in a stick for 10 ones. All right, so now I can take away 6. But if I were to add this all up before I take anything away, it's still 153, right? I didn't change the number. I just changed what it looked like a little bit, but it's the same amount of the little blue blocks. There's still 153 of them. All right, so now I'm going to take away 6 ones and 3 tens, or 30. So I'm taking away, hold on. That was real smooth. I'm taking away 36. And how many am I left with? I'm left with 117. Okay. So hopefully the first one might be like, oh, okay, that was a little weird. So do another example. Do 5 more examples if you need to. Do as many as you need to until they are feeling really confident in that. Now, when I say that, it's a good idea to start where you're only borrowing tens to ones. Don't deal with breaking up the hundreds yet until they are feeling pretty comfortable with that. And as you're doing that, just be like, hey, you're borrowing. This is what you're doing in math, physically what you are doing. All right. From there, once you've done enough of those that they're like, okay, I get it, be like, okay, we're going to move on to another thing. Okay. Now, all this being said, if you don't want to have this paper here anymore, you don't have to. It's very helpful for some students, but if you're just like on your kitchen counter and you don't need this paper, totally fine. All right. From here, we want to start to introduce when we break up the hundreds. All right. So a good example for that, we might pull out, hold on, let me grab it. 126 minus 52. So 126, take away 52. Again, hopefully we're in the habit of taking from the ones first. So I take away 2. And I need to take away 5 tens or 50. And I only have 2. So what do? Hopefully your student has had enough practice of breaking up these sticks that they're like, oh my gosh, there's 10 sticks there that I can break up, right? So I'm going to take my 100, turn it in, and get 10 sticks. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Okay, there we go. All right, I already took away the 2, right? Now I am taking away the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I took away 52. What am I left with? I am left with 74. Oh my gosh. Okay, so see that? Do a bunch of examples where you borrow from the hundreds place. Now, here's the thing. I only have 100. If you have more than 100, you can do higher numbers, but I just have 1. All right, there you go. Okay, the next thing we want to do, once they're feeling comfortable with that, they're feeling comfortable breaking the hundreds into 10 sticks, right? The next thing we want to do is when you have to borrow twice. Crazy stuff happening, right? So let's go ahead and do an example where you borrow both times. So once they're like, okay, I get it, I have done it a lot, then be like, all right, see if you can figure out this one, dear. So we have 140. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 147. And we want to take away 88. Starting with our ones, I only have 7. So I can't take away 8. So they're probably useless. They're like, okay, I'm going to take a stick, turn it in, get 10 ones. All right, I turned in my stick, got 10 ones. Now I can take away 8. Okay, taking away 8. Now I need to take away 8 tens. Oh, I only have 3. Again, they've been doing this. Break up the 100 into 10 sticks. Here we go. Oh man, getting a little crazy. Now I have enough to take away 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't show the answer. 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. So what am I left with? 59. Okay. Do a bunch of examples like that where you have to borrow twice. All right. Until they're like, okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. All right. So at some point, they're probably going to get sick of these. Okay. And also, we can't carry these around in our pocket to use every day in life, right? So at some point, we need them to get to the point where they don't need that anymore. But they might not quite be ready to jump in to the standard algorithm yet, right? So another option, which I personally think is awesome for students, is instead of using the physical base 10 blocks, we can help students learn how to draw them. All right. So let me show you what I mean. If I had, let's say we have 158 minus 32. Okay. Now starting this, I might be like, okay, we're going to keep subtracting, but we're going to try something a little bit different this time. Like, hey, maybe you're a little sick of the blocks. Let's see if we can try something else out. Instead of using the physical blocks, we are going to draw them. We are going to use a square to represent 100, okay? A line to represent 10, and then just a dot to represent our ones, okay? So let's see what this looks like. Now, when I first would introduce this to my student, I would first, again, do ones that don't have any borrowing, okay? So 158 minus 32 would look something like this. 158, okay? Minus 32, I go, okay, one. Oh, I should have started with the ones. Pretend I started with the ones. I take away 2 ones and 3 tens, right? And what am I left with? I am left with 126. Okay, so do as many as you think they need to do to feel comfortable with the drawing before you add in the borrowing again. Okay, so you're like, okay, you might have noticed we didn't do any borrowing. So let's see what happens when we start to borrow. So what if I had 182 minus 54? Okay, have them draw 182, okay, minus 54. Again, we want to try to remember to start with the ones. And it's like, oh crap, I only have 2. So what am I going to do? I got to take one of my sticks, which will give me 10 ones. Oh, I just dropped my marker. Hold on. Which will give me 10 ones. Okay, so now I can take away 4 ones and 5 more tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what am I left with? I'm left with 128. Okay, then I might do one. That one we borrowed from tens to ones. Do one where you borrow from hundreds to tens. Okay, if this is feeling a little like thorough, isn't that what we want to be? Right? We want to be thorough and we want to build and not give them things that are too hard that will discourage them. So start with borrowing from tens to ones and then introduce something like 129 minus 52, where we're going to borrow from the hundreds. Okay, so 129 minus 52. So I'm going to take away 2 ones. And then I only have 2 tens. I need 5 tens. So I break apart my 100 and get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I can take away 5 tens, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm left with 77. Okay, do a bunch like that where you're borrowing from hundreds to tens Next, you probably guessed it, we are going to do both. So something like 133 minus 56, where you have to borrow twice. All right. Have them draw the 133. Take away 56. I noticed, well, I don't have 6, so I got to break apart one of my 10s. Now I can take away 6. And I got to take away 50 or 5 10s, which I cannot do. So I got to break this guy into 10 10s. Take away 5 10s. And I am left with 77 again. That was fancy. I didn't mean to do that. All right. Do a bunch of those where you have to borrow twice and then mix them up so they're not expecting to borrow every time. Do some where they don't have to borrow. Do a bunch of different ones until they're like, okay, I totally get it. I get this drawing thing. I love it. All right. Then once they're comfortable with that, again, all this being said, you don't have to do this in one day, right? This can be over some time. All right. But once they are feeling comfortable with that is when you can be like, all right, you can even make it a big deal. All right. Be a little dramatic about it. I think you're ready for the standard algorithm. Okay. And again, I'm not going to talk you through the standard algorithm a lot because I think you as a parent or teacher are pretty familiar with it. But you can start out the standard algorithm with no borrowing. Then do it with borrowing from tens to ones, borrowing from hundreds to tens, and then with both, okay? And slowly walk them through and remind them of all the visuals they've been doing, okay? So for example, with something like 634 minus 459, okay? Hopefully by this time they've done it enough that they are picturing the blocks in their head as they do this, all right? So I go 4 minus 9. I can't do that. So I'm breaking up one of my sticks. So now I only have 2 sticks, right? And giving 10 ones here. So this is now 14, right? Hopefully they are picturing this. So it's not just like, okay, I'm doing this because my teacher told me to. It's I'm doing this because I know what it looks like, okay? 14 minus 9 gives me 5. Then 2 minus 5, I can't do that. I need to break up this 100, one of the hundreds. So I'm left with 5 hundreds. And I have 12 tens now. 12 minus 5 gives me 7. 5 minus 4 gives me 1. All right. And do as many of those standard algorithm examples as you need to do. And if you find them struggling with it, get out the blocks again or have them draw pictures again until they feel comfortable and are like, I can totally do it this way. All right. Props to you if you stayed through that whole video, and your student is very lucky that you care to be able to help them understand this because it will help them for a long time in the future. Check out those links if you wanted to buy some of these or if you want to print them. Totally up to you. But good luck. Let me know if this was helpful. Thanks.